Hello, Professor Deb here. Welcome to this video lecture on technical mathematics. We're going to be discussing roots of an equation. There is a video prior to this that you should view that is part 1 of roots of an equation. We're going to pick up where we left off, and we're going to continue with a couple more problems. At any time, stop or rewind. Well, you don't rewind anymore. Replay the video to examine the material with more depth. Let's get started on some of these harder problems that we left off on. Now remember that we were taking a large polynomial, such as what we have in front of us, and we were using synthetic division and finding the roots of this equation. Now again, to remind you, this equation has 4 roots, and we are given 2 of them, 2 and -2. So first let's set up our synthetic division. We're going to put our root in there. We'll put our first one in there too. And then remember, we bring down the coefficients. So we've got 2, 6, -12, -24, and 16. Okay, and all our decreasing order. We've got all our spots, so we should be good. Alright, we bring down here. Oh boy, my lines aren't too good this morning. We bring down here the 2. And remember, then we take that up and multiply it by this. So we've got 4. We add those numbers. We've got 10. We take this 10 back up and multiply it by the 2. We've got 20. We add these numbers and we end up with 8. We take it up to the 2. We've got 16. We add the numbers, and this time we've got a -8 multiplied by 2 is a -16, which gives us 0. That means 2 is a root of this equation. Alright, now we step from here. We keep going from here with our next root. -2 this time. I gotta get my straight line in there. Still struggling with that. We bring down our first 2. 2 times -2 is -4. This becomes 6. 6 times -2 is -12. -12 from 8 is -4. And -4 times -2 is 8. So we end up with 0. Good. So these 2 are roots of this polynomial. They factor out with 0 as a remainder. Alright, now we've got 3 left. And that brings us from the 4th to the 3rd to the 2nd. So now this will, let's rewrite the equation. 2x to the 2nd plus 6x minus 4 equals 0. We can simplify this by taking out the common monomial of 2, and we end up with x squared plus 3x and minus 2. That's a little bit easier to work with. Okay, now remember before in the other ones we tried to factor this. And you can't factor this. This will not factor. So instead, we have to put it into the quadratic equation. Whenever a polynomial does not factor, you need to put it into the quadratic equation. I know that's a problem for some of us. We don't remember what that equation is, but let me try and drop our numbers in there and hopefully it'll jog your memory. So we have -b Let's put those designations here. The 1 is an A, the 3 is the B, and the negative 2 is the C. So the equation is negative B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus, and I always put a parenthesis here, 4 times A, which is 1, times C, negative 2. And that is all over 2 times A. So 2. So let's simplify this. We've got negative 3 plus or minus, and let's do some math in here. 4 times 1 is 4, times 2 is negative 8, and the negative 8 becomes a positive 8, plus 9 becomes 17. So we're going to put that down there. Underneath that radical is 17, and that's all over 2. So we actually here now have our 4 roots. Our root 1 was 2. Our root 2 was negative 2. And you just have to write these using the positive and negative. Root 3 equals a negative 3 plus square root of 17 over 2. And our root 4 equals negative 3 minus the square root of 17 over 2. So once you get down to the quadratic equation, hopefully that jogs some of your memories. Once you get down to that quadratic equation, you actually have 2 roots because of the plus and minus. All right? All right, let's try another one. Here's one with 3 roots, and all 3 roots are equal to 2. Okay, so I've got 3 roots to 2. However, I've got a 5 here. So let's start our synthetic division. We're going to have quite a bit here, so I'm going to try and stay small. Our first root is 2. Our coefficients are 1, negative 5, 7, negative 2, 4, and 8. We draw our line, bring down the 1, multiply 1 by 2, add, multiply negative 3 by 2, add, 1 times 2 is 2, which gives us 0. Now you can't stop there. Okay, you still have 2 more numbers in the equation. 0 times 2 is 0. So add those and I get 4. 4 times 2 is 8. Whoops, here's my mistake right here. This should be a negative 8. That's how it comes out, 0. Alright, so now I'm down to, let's see, 0. So I took off 1 number, so now I'm down to x to the 4th. Okay, we stack these, and we'll do our second root, number 2. Trying to get better at those straight lines. What do you think? Okay, we bring down our 1. 1 times 2 is 2. Added together gives us negative 1. Negative 1 times 2 is negative 2, which would give us negative 1. Negative 1 times 2 is negative 2, which would give us a negative 2. Negative 2 times 2 is a negative 4. Great. Yes, 2 is a factor again, so now we're down to the fourth, down to the third. We've got to do one more time, right, in order to get that down to the second, because when it's down to the second, we can factor it. So good thing they gave us 3 roots. Okay, we bring down that 1 again. 1 times 2 is 2. Gives us 1. 1 times 2 is 2. Gives us 1. 1 times 2 is 2, which gives us 0. Okay, now we've got down to x squared, but this is going to look a little strange, I think. All right, we do have a polynomial of 2 with a degree of 2, so what we want to try and do is factor that. Just does not factor. So we know from the last problem that if we couldn't factor it, we had to put it in that quadratic equation. Well, I'm going to skip a little bit of the steps with the quadratic equation and just write out what it is. We have negative 1 oh, it's negative b, that's right, plus or minus. See, I got stuck on that quadratic equation myself. And it'll be 1 minus 4 over 2. This is not looking good, is it? We've got negative 1 plus or minus a negative 3. Now, there was a whole series of video lectures on imaginary and complex numbers. And what we've got here is a complex number. That negative underneath the square root sign has to come out as j. You remember that? So what we've got, I'm going to start up here, negative 1 plus or minus, and I bring that negative sign out as j. Square root of 3 divided by 2. So we can leave that as is, or we can put this as negative 1/2 and j square root of 3 over 2. Either way you want to express it, it's the same answer. So I'm going to leave it in that so as I don't confuse you anymore. So what do we have here? We have root 1, root 2, and root 3 as 2. So our root 4 is just that plus or minus sign again. Remember, we have plus, don't forget my j, square root of 3 divided by 2, and root 5 would be the other possibility. Oops, let's see. We've got plus, so we've got, not that, negative 1 minus j. It's hard to read my own writing there, sorry. Over 2. So there you have the 5 roots of this polynomial. Okay? You have 3 real roots and 2 imaginary roots. Alright, between part 1 and part 2 you've done quite a bit of them now. Here I'm going to give you one. Now don't worry about that 2/3. It'll come out. It'll come out real nice for you. Set up your quadratic equation. Set up your synthetic division and use 2/3 and you'll see it'll work out for you. And then use 2j. And we did that in part 1 where we used 2j, or j and negative j. What was the, what is root 3? Do you remember what we said root 3 would be? Let me give you a little reminder. It'll be the conjugate. All right? Whenever we have a j root, the conjugate is another root, or usually another root. So here you have 1, 2, 3. That should get you down to x squared, and you should be able to put it into, find the other two roots. All right, stop the video, try this, and take a look for your answer. Okay, now I believe here is our last problem for polynomials. Okay, however, I didn't make this one easy, did I? Okay, here is x to the fourth, but look at what our root is. Oh boy, negative 1 plus 2j. What's our second root? Remember, it's that conjugate. Yeah, so now we have our two roots, so that's all we need, but boy, are we going to have to get through this. All right, no sense in stalling any longer. Let's get going. We'll start over here in the corner. Negative 1 plus 2j. And we have 1. Why did I draw that line up there? I think I got over anxious on my straight lines, because, you know, they are coming out pretty good here, so. A little bit of humor doesn't help. It doesn't hurt with math. Okay, now we draw our straight lines. Look at that. Okay, we bring down our 1. Now, what is 1 times negative 1 plus 2j? Right? We got to stick that in there. I should have left more room. I know I'm going to get in trouble here. 1 plus 2j. Now, what is 2 minus 1 plus 2j? It's not that hard. You don't have to worry about the j's. You just have to carry them, okay? So what we end up with is 1 plus 2j. Oh, this looks complicated, doesn't it? Okay, so we're going to have to go over to the side here a little bit. We're going to have to take negative 1 plus 2j, and we're going to have to multiply that by 1 plus 2j. Now, if you're thinking ahead, you know that those j's are going to turn into j squared. All right. Hopefully you've viewed other videos of mine, and I call these smiley faces. So that first smiley face is 2j. That second smiley face is negative 2j. Okay, so look at that. It cancels out. Great. Why does it cancel out? Okay, now what we've got is our eyebrows. Negative 1 times 1 is negative 1 plus our middle term. And then the last two terms, 2j times 2j, is 4j squared. Now we said, remember, that j squared equals negative 1. So this actually becomes negative 1 plus negative 4, which equals negative 5. So we just put negative 5 in here. Isn't that odd? How that just erases itself, isn't it? Makes it much nicer. But we're not done yet. All right, negative 9 times 1 plus 2j. That would be a positive 9 minus 18j. Okay, and if we subtract that, negative 18 from 9 should be negative 9 minus 18j. All right, now we've got to go back again to the right, and we've got to multiply this big number with a j against this big number with a j. We can do it. We did it the first time. We can do it this time too. Negative 1 plus 2j times negative 9 minus 18j. All right. Best part of the whole thing, right? Smiley faces. That's negative 18j. And our outside smiley face gives us a positive 18j. I did something wrong here. Give me just a minute. Okay. Negative 9 minus 18j, negative 1 plus 2j. Negative 18j and positive 18j. Gives us 0, right? And then negative 1 times negative 9 gives us 19. And 2j times negative 18j should give us negative 36j squared. And that's a negative 1, excuse me, negative 1 times negative 36 would give us a positive 36. 36 plus 19 gives us 45. Okay, so there it is. Perfect. Oh, see, I thought I had done it wrong. 0. So negative 1 plus 2j is actually a factor, but we're not finished yet. Look at what we're left with here. You think we're not getting any closer to the answers here, are we? Well, we are. We are. If we do this one more time, I promise you it'll come out. That's because I've done this problem 1,000 times. Okay, we've got negative 1 plus 2j, but this time, remember we had to use our conjugate. So we have negative 1 minus 2j. Okay, we bring down our 1. Now we've got negative 1 minus 2j. Ah, look what happens. Yes, we got rid of the j's. 0. Okay, I'm sorry. Get a little excited when those drop out. 0 times negative 1 minus 2j is what? 0. So we add this down, we get negative 9. Okay, negative 9 times negative 1 minus 2j. What do we get? 9 plus 18j equals 0. Isn't that beautiful? So we don't have a middle number now, but again, we went from fourth to third to second. So what we have here is we're down here x squared, that's a 1, x squared, minus 9, we have no value for x, equals 0. So x squared equals 9, and x equals the positive or minus, square root of 9, which equals positive or minus 3. So there are our 4 roots. Let's see, kind of crowded in here. Let's see what we can do. Our root 1, I'm so excited about this, I just have to put it in red. Negative 1 plus 2j. Root 2 equals negative 1 minus 2j, the conjugate. And root 3 equals a positive 3. And root 4 equals a negative 3. Okay? We're finished. Isn't that great? A lot of, you can get mixed up in here. In fact, I almost did, right? You can get mixed up in here and have no clue where you're going. But what you need to do is take this, when you get this and you end up with this, take it over to the side to multiply it. And hopefully you remember how to multiply 2 binomials. All right? So that concludes this video lecture. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much for watching.